I've never done this before, but just so you know, I wrote talking points.
Okay.
And I wrote story, direction, stakes within the MCU, sex scene, gay stuff, action, Kumail, Angelina, and end credits.
Cool. I have a couple things I might toss.
No, that we can do our usual whatever, but I was just like that was the points I wanted to hit, so I wrote that down.
Perfect.
Hello, everybody. I'm Will.
And I'm Kristen.
And this is So I'm Watching This Show, your new favorite YouTube pop culture YouTube channel where we talk about movies, TV, music, and more. And as always, this is a spoiler show, so you have been warned. I think we're going to do a few minutes light stuff. I think we'll gradually ease into spoilers, but we will try to throw down a hard spoiler warning before there's anything and then in the end,
yeah.
you know.
And then in the second post-credit scene, honest to God, though, I don't even remember the second one.
I do.
Okay.
I know what it is. I watched.
Okay. Oh.
So
now I remember.
That's the second thing that I want to say starting off, that I tend to try to not watch or listen or read to other reviews before I talk, because I am very, especially with words, I'm very malleable and I'm like a sponge. I soak in terms. And I honestly, when I left this movie, I was so baffled. Sign of a good movie, I wanted to spend more time in it, but also from a how dare you place. So I was just gonna say I watched Dan Murrell, Perry Nemiroff, Real Rejects, Grace Randolph, Pop Culture Happy Hour. If I say anything particularly poignant or good, just attribute it to one of those people.
Okay, fair enough.
Did you have anything you wanted to say going in?
I made a deliberate choice with my shirt today. It's okay to like bad movies.
I'm for against it.
Yeah, okay, because I don't know how deep I can get into this until we're in the midst of some of the other talking points that you had, but I can't stress enough how much I enjoyed the watching of this movie. But the more I think about it, and even during the watching of it, I was like, there's not enough there. And so it's the more I think about it, the more, it's not the more I dislike it, but the more disappointed I am with the end result of what it all culminated in.
I'm going to assume everybody knows this is Disney's Eternals. Did we even say that?
Disney Marvel, yeah.
You can't protect any of them.
It is getting mixed reviews. Has it settled at a 50 or did it go below?
I never.
It's the kind of thing where it's the good reviews are backhanded and the bad reviews are complimentary. Going into it, I couldn't imagine how it was going to be that baffling or that muddy.
That divisive.
Yeah, I was sort of how am I not going to love this? And that is, I do think that it's important to state that I had decided before I saw this that I liked it.
Yeah.
Which, I wouldn't say we do that all the time, but we do it sometimes.
But we also try really hard to try to like the stuff.
We like to like the things that we see.
I want to like the movies. I want to like the Marvel stuff. I'm not going to stop watching them, even if they start being duds. I'm 26 movies in deep at this point. I can't stop now.
And we're going to have to get to a point where there's 12 duds in a row.
Yeah, 12 bad ones in a row.
For
and
us to be ugh.
I just don't believe that, Spider-Man is going to be bad enough to, put me off the whole thing.
I don't know. Apparently it's having issues.
I don't know. I heard I saw some stuff too. I'm not sure.
I am going to come down and say that I liked this movie.
Yeah.
And if you had asked me 3 hours ago, that would have been different.
Okay.
But the reason why I am choosing that I liked this movie is because if I saw any of these characters again in another movie, I would be excited.
Same.
If I heard they were going to do another one, I would be excited.
Sure.
When I see the poster or elements from the movie, that thing inside me kind of goes, oh. So ultimately, I'm going to say that I liked this movie. Having said that, I am about to tear it to absolute pieces.
Me too.
2 pieces.
Yeah.
To shreds, you say?
Okay.
I don't understand how this happened.
I agree with you 100%. And here's my other thing. I think Chloe Zhao seems like an extremely wonderful person. I never ended up finishing Nomadland, and I'll say why, and you can come at me with all the heat. I got really tired of Frances McDormand's awards circuit. I was not here for that whole situation. I didn't like the whole vibe. So I have never seen anything else to completion that she's directed. I don't think she was the right fit for this. It seems so weird.
I'm laying it all at her feet.
I'm not doing that.
I'm laying it all at her feet.
Some of that blame has to go to Marvel, because why this was completed before Nomadland. So I don't know how they even were like, she's the one. It's bizarre. That I'm very confused about her being in this.
So the one of the words being thrown around a lot about this movie is dense, and it is not dense in the way that, say, Dune is dense.
Sure.
But there is a weight to this movie that, considering the near 3-hour runtime, they don't do anything. Like, we open with a scrolling text, and I was like, oh no.
It's not the worst scrolling text. It's fine. But
all of that could have, this is a very tell, not show. And the places where they do show, it's in a bad way. We could, considering how much story there is to tell and how much exposition there is, I can't believe that none of that was done with the runtime. Like, so much of it is done in text or a verbal dump. And
there are a couple of verbal dumps that are pretty egregious. And here's the other thing too, is I don't understand how, like, 98% of the dialogue wound up in the final cut of this screenplay. Except for Kumail Nanjiani's dialogue, which was, like, mostly good.
So I liked the story. I hated the script. I thought the script was terrible. And again, I think the direction was terrible. There's a lot of what people will call bad acting. That, again, I'm going to blame Chloe, or it's a director's job to land the plane, and this plane was not landed.
It's her or the editor.
Her responsibility.
The editor is potentially picking the bad takes and stuff, but like okay. This had a very, I'm gonna make a mean comparison. This had a very Twilight vibe to me in some instances, where I'm like, or like the Star Wars prequels, where I'm like, how is that the take you chose of these otherwise extraordinary actors? All of these actors are great.
I think it takes a very special talent to make Angelina Jolie dull.
Yeah.
She is so magnanimous.
She's such a magnetic
luminous,
and charismatic, and just like you're drawn to her in everything that she's in. And I agree with you. She just was sort of like,
again though. If Thena was in another movie, I would probably break out in applause. Okay. I'm so sold on the characters, and I'm sold on the concept of it. And so for people out there who haven't seen the movie and are curious, or for some of you who have seen the movie and are curious, the story is that there are apparently things called celestials that are like gods.
Well, they like are where the universes come from or something like that. This is spoilers, by the way. This, I think, is...
I mean, it's the opening scroll of the...
Okay, yeah, I guess it
is. but I will start getting into spoilers, I suppose. So if you are a spoiler person, go ahead and bow out now.
Well, the last thing I want to say before we get into that is that I haven't said this in a while, I think, but this is absolutely a property that, in my opinion, should have been a TV show. There is no excuse.
No excuse.
We are introduced to like 12 new important characters in this movie. That's too many for a movie.
But getting to my fifth note, are they important?
Well,
so
supposedly in the future they will be.
I think could be.
Yeah, I don't. Well, then what's the fucking point of this movie?
Exactly. So there are things called celestials that are like gods, and they're like caretakers, I guess. And they created, so there are the worlds, and there are people growing on the worlds and like nature and all that. And they created the Eternals to sort of watch over these worlds and protect these worlds from the deviants, which are iridescent rope monsters that
they were pretty cool looking. I thought they were pretty cool looking. They were at least slightly different.
But I think I would have preferred if they were just monsters, like if because there's allusions to mythology and stuff. So I was sort of like, why isn't one a dragon?
Yeah.
Why isn't one Cerberus? Like, why isn't?
Sure.
But and I guess the deviants at one point were meant to be like guardians of the world, but they turned and just started eating people. I'm not entirely sure, but the Eternals were sent to fight them off, and so. Which was apparently a very easy task because it's done within the first 20 minutes of the movie.
Yeah. I mean, it takes a couple thousand years, but they return and become a great menace again, but
kind of.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of what is being sold to us, is that we're watching the Eternals fight the deviants to protect Earth. But how that factors into the actual movie a very limited amount.
Yeah.
Getting into full spoilers, there is a twist that apparently you grow a celestial in a planet, that you like plant a seed of a celestial, and then as the planet grows, the celestial grows, and it like feeds off of like the intelligence and the energy and all of that stuff.
Well, and there's like a threshold of like a population threshold that the planet has to meet, and so that is what the Eternals' goal actually is to protect these humans until the population reaches a certain threshold, so that then the celestial can consume it all in order to be born and
do good.
Well,
I don't know
but it's
what
like
the celestials
so
do.
After the celestial consumes the one planet, it then spawns billions of other planets and life forms and stuff.
And so the Eternals don't know this.
Yeah.
With the exception of, I guess, Ajak.
Yeah.
Who is Salma Hayek. As the leader, and at a certain point she knows the nature of the true mission, and basically she decides that she does not want to go through with this mission because the humans of this planet have endeared themselves to her. In particular, she has a rather poignant sort of monologue.
5 years ago, Thanos erased half of the population of the universe, but the people of this planet brought everyone back with a snap of a finger.
So she has a conflict of character where she decides that she's going to reject her mission.
Yeah. Her like prime objective.
Because she feels that these humans are potentially more valuable.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Well, it's also
fascinating stuff.
Let's say it also calls back to Age of Ultron, when Vision is like, they're not important because they're perfect. They're important because they keep trying. They like just keep going. And it's the type of thing that like, you know, this celestial, or they're like, what was his name? Arishem.
Yeah.
He doesn't get it. Thanos doesn't get it. Ultron doesn't get it. But like all of our heroes understand that the humans are important because, and that's like throughout the history of like writing and storytelling. Humans are interesting because they keep going. And like, you just can't stop them. It just keeps happening. And so that's the kind of stuff that I think is really nice. And I do like that it runs through the whole, whole MCU.
So that's sort of the general plot of what is happening. That's the first spoiler. The second spoiler, which again, I'll get to here, is that Richard Madden's Icarus decides to prioritize the mission over Ajax's leadership. And
once again, Robb Stark making the stupid decision.
And he kills her.
Yeah.
And
well, he pushes her off the cliff and lets her be eaten by deviants, which is so rude. Poor dead-looking gray Salma Hayek. Horrible.
So he kills her and then plays dumb for a few days.
Yeah.
And
I don't love it. It was weird. It was really weird.
Oh, I was still trying to finish the story part. I absolutely despised that twist. And his ending, which I'm not even kidding. It was hours ago when I got it.
Oh, I'm furious. I literally...
It was hours ago when I got the joke.
In the movie theater, I was like, you fucking kidding me? He just flies directly into the sun. Like an asshole.
or his name,
or like Icarus. It's so stupid. Like, it's just, ugh.
For what?
He failed, and now he doesn't even want to try to like make amends. He's just like, oh, I did a bad job, and no one likes me, so I'm gonna fly into the sun. Stupid. Well, like, also, what a stupid waste of Richard Madden in the MCU. Are you out of your mind?
Which is my issue with this entire movie, because
Yeah.
as it stands, it doesn't factor into anything that we've seen. And from what I'm hearing, there aren't concrete plans to move forward. So it's sort of like, again, like I said, if they choose to keep some of these people, and I in particular, I think two of the most valuable are Kumail and Angelina. I think that they could very easily be in other movies, and I would be thrilled
100%
to see them.
Also, Brian Tyree Henry.
Finishing out the story is the Eternals, were together, and this deep family of misfits that sort of, for varying reasons that we'll touch on here and there, fell out. And so this movie is about...
Not even necessarily acrimoniously. They just all kind of... Ajak eventually was like, our mission's over. Go live your lives. And so they did.
And they sort of like parted ways. And so a large part of this movie is not Eternals fighting deviants. It's sort of getting the gang back together. I guess the movie's trying to do too many things.
100%.
Because
we all know how much I love a team building montage, and this was not that. And it could have been.
So going in, there's several things that are already like catnip, like absolute sweet nectar to me. Gods and monsters, the weight of time, relationships, complex, complicated, found family, misfit, like there are so many things about this that I love, and that's what I'm sort of thrilled and baffled about and by this movie is I love the concept of it. You guys were talking a little bit as we were leaving about not being impressed with certain members of the Eternals, and I liked all 10 of them. I really did.
Okay.
I liked all 10 of them.
I didn't outright dislike any of them. I think there were too many for one movie, which is why I still think it should have been a TV show. And I think some of them absolutely pulled their weight more than others. And my biggest issue is actually with Sprite, because they were really, really trying to go for a Claudia from Interview with the Vampire vibe with her, and it just did not wash for me at all. And that she was in love with Icarus, no, didn't wash for me even a little bit. They didn't put enough effort into it. They didn't.
This is where the telling, not showing,
Exactly.
I think, came in, because I never felt the like.
She's never looking at him longingly. She's dressing like a little, a modern day Peter Pan child. So nothing. It's not even like she's trying, like, once Claudia is on her own and she starts wearing, like, woman dresses in Interview with the Vampire, it's a whole different vibe.
Well, so this ties in with one of my talking points, which was the sex scene, where it was like, there's a sex scene in this movie, but it doesn't...
It's not earned.
It's not earned. It's not well placed. It's not well...
Executed.
Executed. Yeah. And it's the kind of thing where it's like, to put sex into a movie, certainly something like this that doesn't, as every other movie can attest to, doesn't need to, which that's been one of my biggest complaints.
Is that there's not enough sex.
There's not sex appeal.
Like, not like this.
Well, the thing is, we're supposed to care about the characters so much. The sex scene is supposed to be a product of the characters in the movie, and they use it. They're like, these characters are having sex, ergo care about them. And I'm like, no, I need to care about them, ergo they have sex.
Exactly. And that's the thing is, like, my biggest issue with the amount of Eternals, the fact that there are 10, is that none of them got enough time to shine as a character. And that is what frustrates me, because I should have cared about every single one of them. And beyond, like, very surface things where, like, Thena is kind of going bananas, and
that goes to, so each Eternal has their own interesting inner conflict that somehow the movie delivers like unflavored Jello. It's like each one of these things is such a fascinating, like a god going mad, like a god having dementia. Fascinating. Not in the movie.
Not in the movie.
It's
and that's the thing is, there's also not enough, like, there's not enough interpersonal quirks. And to that, I would say that, again, in my opinion, Kumail Nanjiani's Kingo is the one that seems to have the most depth of relationship with the most other Eternals, where he makes quips to multiple ones that made me feel like, oh, there's a story there.
So he's the funny one. There is a crucial, just as I said a similar thing about Jason Momoa. There's just a jolt of chemistry every time he's on screen. And
I would also argue, to a way lesser extent, I would also argue at a certain point, the same can be said for Barry Keoghan's Druig, because he gets quippy at the end. And I am also just kind of fascinated by him as a man and a performer. So I liked him
in a way that I wanted more, which is how I landed at, I think my official stance is I liked it.
Yeah. But you're choosing that.
Kind of,
it's
yeah.
Not like the first time that we saw Captain America.
That was a decision I made. It wasn't a feeling I felt.
Exactly. The first time we saw the Winter Soldier, we were like, oh no, this is 100% our shit.
It like burst from me.
It fully formed from my brain like Athena. But it's like, watching this, it's like I have to go back and be like, well, I really liked that part, and I really liked that part, and I really liked that part. And that can add up to I liked the movie as a whole enough.
So this reminded me so much of like the first 3 DC movies where you could just tell they were trying to play catch up.
Yeah.
Where I was like, we should have scattered several of these characters in previous movies.
Sure.
Specifically Selma Hayek. We needed to see her before, because she's such a presence. And I ended up watching, Will recommended her Hot Ones, which Hot Ones is a show that I love it in, much like Eternals, I love it in concept, not always in execution. Yeah. But she was so exquisite, so gorgeous, so captivating that I watched her eat chicken wings for 30 minutes and try to answer questions. Yeah. And she's 55 years old, going on 34. I don't...
Almost never looked better. I mean...
Exquisite.
She's so beautiful.
The gravitas is there, but there's just something about it that falls flat. And especially when...
To me, again, that's the scripting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm very with you on that, where it's like, I don't understand how you have Angelina Jolie and Salma Hayek, 2 grand dames of Hollywood.
If ever there were. Movie stars.
Legit movie stars. I mean, I think at one point, both of them were making $20 million a picture. Certainly Angelina was, if Salma was not. But I don't understand how you get these 2 powerhouses who are also like the ultimate smoke shows of the world, and this is what happened? This is the thing that happened? I don't understand. It actually really makes me angry, because I think everybody who was in this movie, all of the main people, are really good actors. Mm-hmm. They're all very good at their job.
No, the Star Wars prequel was a good point. A good comparison.
Because you wouldn't know, because it's either they were directed poorly or they picked all the wrong takes, or a combination of 2. Because Natalie Portman is an extraordinary actress when she wants to be. And there's no way that she didn't want to be a good actress in the Star Wars movies. And her acting in those movies, she was in The Professional 8 years before the Star Wars movies, and it just does not work.
And because, so like Richard Madden and Gemma Chan, they don't have negative chemistry. Like it was fine.
Yeah. But it's not love for the literal ages. Love spanning millennia? No.
Because there's a moment early on where I was just like, my God, it's like looking at Adam and Eve. And
it is. Physically.
Although, back to the sex scene, which... this is a perfect example of the movie as a whole, because it is a sex scene in the sense that, I mean, there is thrusting.
Yeah.
He is thrusting, but we also get nothing that there's not a little butt, there's not a little side boob. But not even beyond that. It's like we get the technicality of the sex scene without the sexiness or the rawness of a sex scene. We nary a chest hair. I don't know how you have Richard Madden and you don't, no side, and like you just said, no side boob, but it's sort of, and they're in the sand, like they're in the desert.
Look, to bring this back around to Star Wars again.
I don't like sand.
Rough and coarse, and it gets everywhere.
And there's just like, considering there's a scene which I did go to the bathroom once, but there's a scene from the trailer with Angelina standing in a temple with billowing green curtains. And I'm
I
like,
don't think that I don't think
yeah,
that
I don't
actually
think, I think it was Babylon.
happened.
And I didn't see it in the movie. And I'm like, so we put these actors in a temple with billowing curtains,
Yeah.
but that's not where they're having sex?
No. And that's the other thing too, is that what's so frustrating is that I was so ready to be like, oh my God, you know, like an actual sweeping romance in the MCU. That's going to be so exciting.
Well, and I mean, there's this real melancholy through the entire film.
Yeah.
There's this real sense of like, who am I?
Mhm.
What is the point? And this is something that actually, I can't think of her name, from Pop Culture Happy Hour said, where she was like, you get this sense that they want to go home, but they don't know what that means,
Sure.
where it is,
Yeah.
and how that.
And that's the kind of stuff where it's like they really just shave the surface on a lot of really interesting notions, like the notion of immortality, the notion of not having a home, not knowing where you belong, the notion of like having known people for, again, millennia. But then they don't back it up with anything because we've talked about being immortal before and how you think it would be terrible, and I'm way more on board. But my question is, how are these people, these immortal beings, and before they broke apart, they still spent like 5,000
Yeah.
years together. How are these relationships how is it not more quippy? How is this not more funny? This should have been funnier.
And we get glimpses of it. Like there's a Last Supper scene, or I
Yeah.
guess it's not the Last Supper, but there's like a dinner scene
Yeah.
where, because actually, as dull as I did find the execution of Thena, again, like I said, I would be thrilled to give her another go.
Yeah.
And I was very intrigued by her relationship with Gilgamesh.
Me too.
Because it felt romantic.
It did, but it also
It's certainly not romantic.
it felt like a very comfortable, like 70-year-old couple romantic, where it's like it felt like they loved
And
each other.
he's very disarmingly sexy. You don't look at him and think there's a sexy man.
Nobody is. He's very barrel-chested and like, yeah.
Burly and tender. And so
Yeah.
it's like, and that's where I get so frustrated is there are moments of sizzle, of electricity that just sort of spark and go nowhere. And
Because there's also, first of all, Gilgamesh's name is Dong-seok. I think that's how you say his last name. This is his first English language feature film. And he was in Train to Busan, which is an amazing Korean horror zombie movie.
Oh, I thought his name was Don Lee.
Well,
that's the English.
his, like,
Okay.
American name. He's awesome. I love him. He's really great in Train to Busan. He was great in this.
They also, spoilers, kill him. And we had members to spare, but
I don't want to spare the members we spared.
yeah. And again, even like going back to Sprite, and it's like, I don't think it's
Leah McHugh.
I don't think it's her, but it's like there was a very deliberate decision to make her a child.
Yeah.
That the movie says that, but doesn't really, like, I never felt the weight of it.
Yeah.
Like, I never felt the gravity of what that means. We have to have a person be like, you're like Tinkerbell.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Which is some of the clunkiest dialogue that Kumail has to deliver, which is like, you're definitely Tinkerbell. And it's just like, I mean, why are we doing this? And he's the one who also info dumps, well, I know that you're in love with Icarus. And it's like, why? It was just such a weird plot that didn't matter, that I just was like annoyed by, especially because I've seen it done so well in Interview with the Vampire.
or, I mean, the 2003 live action Peter Pan.
Or that.
So I had heard that there was like a gay character in this movie, and I've fallen for that before. So I expected nothing, nothing, to the point where I had even forgotten. We got it. It's Brian Tyree Henry.
Two boys kissed in this movie.
At the moment that I realized that they were the family, I gasped.
It was so nice. And the husband's name is Haz Slyman.
I started weeping, and I felt confused for a second because I was like, well, I mean, I care about this character and that I care about all of the Eternals, which is kind of.
Okay,
but
I actually really enjoyed Fastos.
Yes.
He was good.
But it's the kind of thing that, you know, it's a cliche, people say it, but it's like, you don't know it until you see it. Like, you don't know that it matters until you're there.
Yeah.
It was very similar to many women in the Wonder Woman No Man Land scene, where there was just something about, I had just accepted that we weren't getting it anytime soon. And I just felt so jaded. And so I got to the point where I was like, okay, well, awesome. They're a family. Like, this is it. And then they kissed. And I couldn't believe it. And another thing.
It was also a black man and a brown man.
Mm-hmm. With a child.
With a presumably adopted child, but potentially a surrogacy situation. And they kissed on screen. And Haas Sleiman is from Dubai, I think, or the UAE. So that's like multiple things that happened all together. It was great.
Well, and again, another testament to the movie's success or good things. It's like it's at their house where we get the table
slamming the table thing. Yeah.
I bet you've built the perfect safe house. I mean, what's this even made of? Vibranium?
Fall collection. IKEA.
And it was funny.
It was funny.
I've seen it like 5 times already, and it was still funny in the if not funnier in the context of the movie.
Yeah.
So we're not dealing with an incredible density of failure.
No, because I think one of my favorite things actually is just the like very precious way that Gemma Chan gasps about it. She's like, oh, it's very cute and disarming. And again, back to the chemistry, the jolt of charisma. I think that happens whenever Fastos is on screen too, because Brian Tyree Henry is like also a jolt of charisma in a different way than Kumail,
but very, very charming.
Yeah.
And I didn't love how they used Gemma Chan. She was very passive in this way that I was sort of like they kept talking about how Ajak like picked her to be the leader.
Yeah.
And if they didn't keep telling me that, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't remember.
I almost wish they hadn't said that, and then it had just been like she was closest in the moment.
She was the one that nutted up. And because what was her power? Just nature? She could
make things. I think she's sort of elemental. She like make things grow.
Okay.
She was pulling water up to water the crops at the beginning.
She was beautiful as always, but it just sort of.
Okay, that's the thing though. It's like, yes, of course, Gemma Chan is the most beautiful woman in the world. That's not an argument. That's not an argument
anyone can make.
But here's the thing. Here's the difference. She has like maybe 10 minutes of screen time in Crazy Rich Asians, and she does more in that 10 minutes than she did in this 2.5 hours.
Or even, I mean, Captain Marvel, like she's kind of, she's green, or Raya and the Last Dragon. It's like she has character in her, but this was just so passive in a way that.
So I wanted to say before when we were talking about the chemistry.
And I don't want kick-ass feminism, you know what I mean?
No, but it's like, she is an eternal being. There should be, I don't know, whatever. But I did want to say, I actually don't want to make this a competition between Game of Thrones boys, but I thought she had more chemistry with Kit Harington than she. Well, I mean, fair enough. But in that
3 minutes of screen time?
It's egregious. But in that beginning scene in the classroom, they had a very like meet cute kind of, vibe going to them. And then it turned so dour whenever Richard Madden came back. And I'm just like, eh.
There are action scenes in this movie, 3 that I counted. And it's the kind of thing where a lot of people are going to go to the movie and complain that they were bad or there needed to be more. I almost feel like they needed to be gone.
Even the big one at the end is not so much an action scene. It's so talky for an action scene. And there's not even a lot of fighting or anything.
Well, and the handful, like the maybe 4 glimpses of cool action moments were very cool.
Yeah.
There's a leap Angelina does that because we saw it in the preview of the movie before the movie. And then we saw it in the movie where it's like a moment like that where it was like, we needed more of that. Because the action scene in the middle is long, if we know one thing. But that's what I felt. And so it's like, I definitely didn't want, so yes, it's not that I wanted more action, it's that I needed better action. Because even the one in the beginning was probably the most successful, and it's over in like 4 minutes.
And it is, again, all of the action scenes that we saw in the trailers, which is infuriating to me. Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I guess I'm not sure what different I wanted from the action. I just remembered, and it really chapped my ass, and I don't totally get it. But like Kingo just pieces out and does not take part on either side of the end.
What was punching? What was his power?
I don't know. He had like laser guns. He had,
Some
like,
of them are
finger
very, very graspable.
Yeah.
And other ones are like, huh? Like,
yeah, well, because like Icarus is like Superman.
Could fly and lasers.
Yeah, and Brian Tyree Henry's was actually probably my favorite because he like
engineering.
Well, he like it's like he sees it, and it's very cool. And then Athena she manifests weapons.
Can we just call her Athena? That's so much easier.
She
insists drop the A.
Yeah.
Which that was something that I knew going in. I knew that her character within Marvel was the inspiration for the Greek goddess Athena.
So apparently there is a run in the comics where they all run into their counterparts, and it's like a big to-do because there's too much confusion over their different names.
Oh, so like Athena is an actual?
In a run of the Eternals.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that they were going to so blatantly acknowledge it in the movie.
Yeah.
Like it is an elephant in the room. Do you know what I mean? And I kind of liked that. And again, it going into this, I had a lot riding on the Angelina Jolie of it all. And I wasn't disappointed. Like it wasn't bad. It was, I think the word Will used was flat. I think Will hated this.
He did.
I did.
It was very flat.
It was flat.
It was very flat. Also,
across the board, there were again, like we said, moments of levity and moments that were heightened, but
half
too
of
much
it.
of it.
I think I have a bone to pick with that Regal because the last couple times we went, that screen was dark in a way that I don't think it was the movie because I went home and watched 2 trailers and they were much brighter and much more dynamic. So that screen was dark and the speakers were turned off, and I was like. Yeah. And so I want to add a little asterisk there that maybe if I had seen this on iDrive at the fucking proper IMAX, I would have been more blown away. But even still, I mean, the IMAX can't make up for the acting. Well, no, not that. But I'm saying if the screen was more vibrant,
sure,
if there was actual light, because it would. Do you agree? It was dark. Like it was like there was a gray filter or something.
So I don't have as much of an eye for that as you and Will do, but. We have all kind of been complaining about that theater for a while, so we might venture outside of our comfort zone to other theaters coming up here soon.
We're 0 for 4.
We are 0 for 4. Yeah, I don't know. I think we should talk about Lauren Ridloff as Makari just for a minute, just because
I liked her. You guys seemed a little bit like.
It's not that I didn't like her. I thought she was great. She is deaf in real life. She also was in the excellent movie Sound of Metal with Riz Ahmed that came out last year.
Well, I also love that it was a non-issue.
Yeah.
There was no explanation that she was deaf. There was no sort of like, why is she doing that funny shit with her hands? Yeah. Oh, don't you know? They just are like, you'll get it.
Yeah.
And you do. Like
that was great. What I didn't like is that 75% of the way through the movie, when they're all back in a room together, all of a sudden Druig can't not put his dick on her. It was so fucking weird.
I kind of liked it. I thought they were both hot, but
yes, agree. Okay. I agree that they are both hot, and I would have liked it if there had been any indication in the past scenes.
I love how gorgeous they all were.
Yeah.
Like they were all hot in a very eclectic way. And I feel silly saying that because it has 4 of the most beautiful, like famously beautiful people in the world.
Yes, but they're all differently beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also, not for nothing, he's got a super weird Irish face, but Barry Keoghan is doing it for me lately. So do with that what you will.
Or I mean, even like Richard Madden, it's like he's undeniably gorgeous, but you're not frequently like, standard gorgeous guy, gray streak in his curly hair. It's a little bit, there's a flourish.
He does have that jawline and everything. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Who is Patrick?
I don't know. I saw him too in the cast list, and I was like, what the fuck?
Because even like the Bollywood number I thought was a little dull. It was funny, but I was sort of like...
Yeah, it's certainly not the best Bollywood number I've ever seen.
Okay. It was nothing about it was inspired.
Sure.
Is
Here's what I'll say. Apparently, Kumail was very nervous about it, and he did take dance classes, so I think he took it seriously, but I think that's also not totally his vibe. And he's also Pakistani, so he's not an actual Bollywood person. So it's like he didn't, you don't grow up doing that stuff.
Oh, what was his friend?
Oh my God.
Director.
He was so cute.
Karen?
Oh yeah, what was
K-A-R-U-N, Karen.
Yeah.
Harish Patel.
Oh my God.
So funny. And
the two of them together too.
But that was very, very helpful.
Yeah.
Helpful showing and not telling. because here is a human along for this ride with the Eternals
Yeah.
that sort of is capturing everything about the human spirit that the Eternals wanted. He didn't question it
No.
at all. He was thrilled to be there.
Yeah.
it
It was really good.
he was excellent, and it's something that sort of makes the movie even more forgivable. It's a handful of
Yeah.
times of actual
Yeah.
like
I totally agree. And that's the thing. What I do, if we're wrapping up, I do want to say that, again, I have similarly made a decision that I liked this movie,
that's my official stance.
even though it was not good. And many mistakes were made. But again, like you, I am anxious to see some of these characters in the future.
And I want it to mean like, and that's the thing.
I want it to mean something.
I will be furious if they were like, whew, well, that was a misstep, and they just wiped the slate clean.
We should just get Gemma Chan a third role in the MCU.
But no, I want some of these people to come back, and I want them to factor in. And I think I heard that Angelina signed a multi-picture deal, and the end credit scene certainly makes it seem like we will see her again. It is, again, a big spoiler. It is the introduction to, what was the like dwarf's name?
Pip the Troll.
Troll. There you go. He looked like Javier Bardem.
He kind of did. It's voiced by Patton Oswalt.
Yeah. And Harry Styles as Eros / Star Fox / well, they also said in this movie that like Olympia wasn't real, and that bummed me out because I was like,
well maybe
then what
Olympia is real and the Eternals just aren't from there.
Oh, because I was like, well, then what is with all the gods that we're starting to?
Well, they're not the actual ones. They're different. They're not the gods. They're different.
No, I think for the MCU, the jury's still out on that. But
well, sure, but also what blew me away about the Harry Styles thing is that he's Thanos' brother.
So Thanos has it's either deviant or celestial DNA.
It's deviant DNA.
Which is what
and
made
that's why
him
he looks like a purple thumb.
Yeah.
Okay.
Athena's his,
Harry Styles got all of the mom's good looks.
well, Athena's his cousin. Is Thanos' cousin.
Okay.
And because I was furious because I'm like, we have Angelina Jolie playing Athena. We will have, I guess, mild spoiler for Thor: Love and Thunder, but we have Russell Crowe playing Zeus, and we have Harry Styles playing Eros. But I was like, we have this and she's not Aphrodite? Are you fucking kidding me? Like,
she is oddly blonde for Athena.
But yeah, he came in, and I am more excited to see what we're going to do with him than that, because even his appearance in this was strangely flat.
Harry.
I mean, he didn't do much. He just sort of.
Just so cute, though.
Yeah, he meandered in and said a few things. I also think he's sort of like chummy with Adam Warlock, who we are going to get with a disarmingly newly piece.
Will Poulter.
Will Poulter. Newly hot Will Poulter.
Yeah.
Did I like it? Yeah, I liked it.
We still haven't made t-shirts. Is that going to be it? Is that going to be the t-shirt?
So, do you have anything left to say?
No, they set up Kit Harington as something.
Yeah, spoilers, because I did do a little bit of research if you want to go in blind. He's like the Black Knight or something. He's like a knight. I don't know what that voice was. No. It's something, apparently. It's someone. I didn't get the answer to that in.
No. Well, that's the other thing, too, which we talked about, so you had told me that Harry Styles was going to be in the MCU. And I was like, oh, cool. But it did not translate to me that meant immediately right now. And so I was not expecting him at all in this movie. So I was still very like surprised by it, and it was nice. But it's like
you and Rachel screamed. But
I have known that Kit Harington is something for 6 months. So I just like, what am I supposed to do?
So I think that the like consensus is that it's like I think it's a family trait.
Yeah, because
like
Gemma Chan gives him that signet ring that he grossly puts on his pinky. I think pinky signet rings are weird. And he's wearing it the whole time, and then he like is trying to tell her, he's like, I found out some stuff about my family.
But it's like I think that it's frequently nefarious, like frequently
bad,
but I think he's not going to be.
Oh, okay.
And I think he is friends with Thor or fights with Thor at times.
Yeah, it's clearly nefarious. The sword was slithering like snakes. Definitely nefarious, of course.
Not lost on me.
No, it's super obvious.
It was a good bad movie or a bad good movie? It was good, not great. It was great, not good.
It was a good bad movie.
It was a good bad movie.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what we're gonna settle on.
Yeah.
Look, I
have seen so many people who think that this movie is like the second coming.
Really?
Oh yeah, so many, and I am so happy for them that that's what they got out of this. But
I can't wait to find out what Rochelle thinks. I think she'll like it.
I think she will. But for me, it just like it could have done so much, and I was so prepared to love it. I wanted to love this movie. I was like, I wanted to be the person who was like, this is the best movie of the MCU. I love that this is heralding in phase 4. I love that this is a new direction we're going into. But at the end, I just sort of felt like I had drifted around in a rowboat until I somehow made it back to where I already was.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't do anything for me.
There were some pretty vistas.
Yes, it was like a lovely trip, but I didn't go anywhere new.
Maybe it did need more CGI because the handful of scenes with like the hand was really striking. Yeah. So I don't know.
All right. Well, yeah. I'm super happy for you if you liked it. Yeah. All right. Follow us on Twitter @SoI'mWatching, Instagram @SoI'mWatching this show. We also have a website, soimwatching.com, which links out to everything. If you liked this and you'd like to see more with potentially better quality, we have a Patreon and a Cash App and a Venmo, and I just made us a coffee app if that's what you have as well. So they're all @SoI'mWatching. Bye.